So I'm going to be sharing several reasons why marriages struggle or why people struggle in marriage. So you get to know this early so that you begin early to avoid some unnecessary mistakes and unnecessary issues in your marriage. So number one reason why marriages struggle is lack of spiritual alignment. Like this is very important. When you are not bonding with your spouse spiritually, you will struggle physically. Now the idea of spiritual husband is very, very important that you understand it. Like many times I've heard about spiritual husband, spiritual wife, those things really exist. They do exist. And that is what happens when you go before the altar with your partner and begins to make a vow before God. Like some people don't take it seriously. A lot of people have lost value for it. You don't know that what you said that day is actually a commitment. You are kind of agreeing with God that this is how this marriage is going to work, not just with God, but with your partner. And that's why you begin to make promises. We know the idea of a vow, like an oath, is like you're taking an oath, you are is a covenant. Like what happens before the altar on the wedding day is very, very serious. And a lot of people don't understand that. So, of course, a lot of marriages struggle because they don't understand what they did before the Lord on that wedding day. And they don't understand that that is actually what keeps their marriage successful. That is the foundation of their success in the marriage. So, spiritual bonding or spiritual alignment is so powerful, is so important. And when your marriage is struggling and you notice that you have issues with aligning with your spouse spiritually, then you have to solve that problem before anything works, because spiritually there's what we call agreement. Like when the Bible talked about two cannot work together except they agree, it's not just about coming together to just decide to do something. Someone might not agree with you in their heart, but physically they are there, and that's why things are not working. So when the Bible is talking about do not be equally yoked with unbelievers, this is exactly what the Bible means, because of course he knows that you want to bond with this person, you want to work things out with this person. But of course, if you don't spiritually align with the person, you are going to struggle, because spiritual bonding is actually what makes two to chase 10,000. It's not about physical, commitment, but spiritually, both of you are with one heart and you are reporting to one God, praying to one God. So that is why it's very important to marry someone of the same faith. So you can't just wake up and decide to marry somebody without caring about their spiritual life, who they report to is important. A lot of marriages where people are not bonding spiritually, they won't tell you how they are struggling. But of course, when you get deep down into them, you see how they are struggling. You see that they are really struggling so much. So it's just okay to obey the scriptures. Do not be equally yoked with unbelievers. These are just people that you cannot bond with spiritually, because they are not reporting to your God. They have a different way of, dealing with spiritual things. So if your marriage is struggling, the first thing you should check is your spiritual alignment. Make sure that you're spiritually bonding with your partner. And again, understand what you did before the altar on your wedding day, and be sure that you are keeping the vows. Because if you are not keeping the vows, of course, you are giving room for the enemy to come in and accuse you and frustrate your marriage and to fight you. And at that point, you don't need to blame your spouse. You don't even need to blame anybody. It's all about maintaining the covenant, understanding that what you did before God, God was involved, and you have to keep to it. So the healing balm of your marriage or your relationship begins with spiritual alignment. So be very sure that spiritual alignment is in place before looking out for other things that might be troubling your marriage or other things that might be causing your marriage to struggle. So let's get to the next thing that could also cause marriages to struggle, and that is unmet expectations. Like you see a lot of people when they are married, they come in with expectations. It's okay, of course, you should come in with expectation. There's nobody that walks into a marriage relationship without having expectation. But the problem here is, what kind of expectation are you walking into the marriage with? You have to, be relative with what you are expecting from your partner. You have to really be sure that what you're expecting from the marriage is what the marriage can give to you. And of course, it is not fine to trust your partner in marriage in terms of your expectations or pertaining to what you want in the marriage. Because, of course, the Bible says, woe unto him that put his trust in man. And that is truth, because your spouse is still a man. Your spouse is still a human being. Whether he's a woman or a man, your spouse is still a human being. So when the Bible is saying, woe unto him that put his trust in man, because a man can fail you. Like human being doesn't have what it takes to even meet their own needs, like all their own expectation. Talk more of meeting all your expectation, which means that all you need to do is to trust God for your spouse. Whatever you are expecting from your spouse or expecting in your marriage, you don't just have to put your trust in your partner. You have to pray that God will be able to do those things through your partner. It means that you are trusting God for your partner, or you're trusting God to do something through your partner, or in your marriage through your partner, or through you. So a lot of unmet expectations are the reasons why marriages struggle. And sometimes you might actually develop some interest while you are in the marriage, like you begin to develop some interest on what you want from your partner. I always say this: it is not okay to have things in your heart, bottled up in your heart, and expecting your partner to know how to love you better. Of course, they should know how to love you better, or he or she supposed to know that these are the things I like eating, like these are the ways I love it, and all that. It's not okay to always keep it in your heart, especially when you are not seeing it in expression from your partner. So you have to be open, like be loud enough, like you don't necessarily not need to make it look like your partner is not trying, but understand that people can be busy with a lot of stuff. So if you feel like you have some expectations, or there is something you expect from your partner, it's okay to relate it, talk about it. Don't keep it in your heart. Don't pretend about it. Don't, act about it. Say it, because when it is said, it is well defined. Like, be audible about it. If you can do that, you're going to help your partner to know exactly where to begin from. Because sometimes you may be thinking that the partner is intentional about the way they manage you, or not giving you what you want. But of course, you are the one that has not related to them what you wanted. So the next reason why couples struggle in marriage is financial stress. Like, this one is the bomb of it. It can be complicated when it's not well planned, especially when maybe the people in the marriage are not matured enough. Like, it can be crazy. When it comes to finances, there are so many things about it. Who does what, who brings in the money, how the money is being distributed. But I always say that what works for this marriage may not work for the other marriage. So you need to find out what works for your marriage, find out what works between you and your partner, and begin to go about that. But it's not fine to not talk about it. It's always good to, discover what works. If you need to see a counselor, if you need to see someone to guide you, if you need to, you have to, depending on what your challenge is on finances, because there are so many things that can come up as challenge. Financial stress is not only when there is no money in the relationship. Actually, most times it comes when there is plenty of the money, when the money is coming in, and a lot of couples begin to have issues. Some couples begin to have issues when the money is even flowing in, while some are facing a lot of challenges when the money is not there. So whichever way or whatever you are experiencing as financial stress, you don't need to keep quiet about it. You need to talk to somebody who is a counselor, or who has what it takes to guide you and to call both of you and to help you. Either the person helps the marriage through you, or has the privilege of calling the both of you, and you're ready to listen. Of course, it's still fine, it's still perfect that way. But understand that when there is financial stress in the marriage, it goes a long way to, add to the struggles that both of you will be experiencing in the marriage. So ensure that you are not reacting out of financial stress, or maybe your partner is not reacting due to financial stress. So financial burden can actually be on one person, and you need to help out. And in some cases, it could just be how to manage the money, which is money management. And depending on what it's all about, there are books on finances and a lot of that. But I always say, end with seeing someone who can guide you, someone who has made it work, someone it has actually worked for. They're going to help you a whole lot. Just like some couples, they are okay with joint accounts, while some couples are not. Some marriages, they don't work things out like that. But provided you are doing what works for you, it's not fine to just copy what is working for someone else just because it's perfect. And of course, if you can convince your spouse to pattern your marriage after someone else you admire, that's fine. But if you cannot, find a unique thing that works for you. Of course, marriage is about understanding between you and your partner, and peace between the both of you. If it has not worked yet, continue to work on it until it works. So poor communication is another reason why couples struggle in marriages, or why marriages struggle. Of course, there are two things that influences communication in relationship or marriage relationship. Number one is the spiritual alignment. Like, you have to understand that Satan fights marriages a lot of times. Like, some couples are going through some struggles in their marriage, and they can't even figure out why they are arguing, why things are not working out. And they've actually been looking for how and what. And try to fix it and it's not working. Some of them are spiritual attacks of the enemy, and you have to understand that. And that is why I talked about spiritual alignment. So earlier in this video, I talked about that. So you need to understand spiritual alignment and how to make it work, because if you born spiritually, the enemy would rarely have a way to penetrate your marriage. Of course, when there is misinterpretation spiritually or lack of spiritual alignment, both of your languages cannot work. Like you try to communicate, but it's beyond physical thing, like is beyond the physical. If you're going to fix it, you need to really get to the root, which is a spiritual alignment I talked about earlier in this video. So another thing that influences communication in marriage relationship is temperament. I've noticed that in some marriages, a lot of couples don't really know who they are married to. When the emotional chemistry of early stage of marriage or romance and all those things are there, some people don't really mind who they are married to based on their character. When we talk about temperament, we're talking about character. How does this person react? How do they respond to things? But of course, when love is moving someone, or when emotional love, romantic love is moving someone, they tend to hide those feelings. And when reality will begin to come to you is when you finally marry the person for some years and you begin to see who they truly are and how they react. And my personal advice is that you begin to learn them. Like, you don't need to run. Like, some people are surprised. Some people are surprised, like, what is happening to you? You begin to scream, you begin to cry, you begin to experience those funny things. But if you have really stayed in marriage for so long, you will understand that the best way to approach someone or your partner when they begin to change is to take your time to learn them, understand what is causing the change, understand that growth is happening to them, understand their new environment, new friends, and begin to adjust to the ones that are necessary. But if it has to do with the ones that are not necessary, of course you need to manage them as issues that are coming up in the marriage and must be attended to the right way, maybe through the right channels, through the right people, or if you can handle it personally with your partner, you just go ahead and do that. So temperament is very important. So if your partner, you feel like you didn't know your partner's temperament before you got married to them, it's not late yet to get to know them. All you need to do is to study the temperament. You need to read books on temperament and see what works. It is not every time that you must tell your partner things that makes them laugh. Some people don't accept some kind of discussions when they are in a particular time or season, or when something like this or that is happening to them. So it's good to study who you are dealing with, because poor communication in relationship is influenced also when you don't understand your partner's temperament or your partner's character, or when to talk to them. Communication is about talking to somebody or transferring an information, and the person on the receiving end was able to receive it properly in understanding. Someone can actually be stressed, and some people don't function well when they are stressed, and you want to communicate to them. You don't, deal with them based on familiarity because you're married to them and expect them to just take it anyhow. Of course, if you give it to them anyhow, they're going to take it anyhow. And at the end of the day, you still didn't communicate because they didn't understand what you're saying. So studying to know who you're married to based on temperament will help your communication a lot. Different temperaments has a way they receive information. And if you understand your partners, that's when your marriage will not struggle. So if your marriage is struggling with communication issues, then you need to check these two things: spiritual alignment and temperament, and see if you are approaching them the right way or dealing with them the right way. If not, then you need to attend to these things I talked about. Find a book, read about it, or personally ask your partner the things they want and the way they appreciate it, because sometimes you have mixed up temperaments in people. And of course, the temperament notes and writings is still not enough to know about people, because human beings are unique. It's only God, the Holy Ghost, is the one who knows who we truly are beyond our temperament. So you can as well begin to pray that God helps you to deal with this person and give it time. Like, don't be in a hurry. Just, you tried it once, it never worked. You keep trying it, and that's why you are there in the marriage. Another thing that makes marriage struggle is infidelity and betrayal. Like, this is a hell of experience in relationship, but I want you to understand that a marriage that faces infidelity and betrayal can still work, because it depends on what happened and the way it happened. Like, some people don't really want to give it a second chance or really want to know what really happened, because what we call infidelity and betrayal sometimes could be mistakes that someone, your partner or your spouse, ran into, and maybe it happened to you as well, but you couldn't explain it, and they are not given the chance to really explain what happened to them and all that. So, but in some cases, even when the person didn't do it as a mistake, but the the person was really ready to change, or you are really seeing that God wants you to work on something. Of course, there are many cases and many stories that I've heard where partners needed to work on their relationship even after infidelity and betrayal happened to the relationship, and their marriage still worked. So marriages struggle when such situations are not attended to. You don't have to ignore it, because when you bottle it up in your heart, that is when it begins to eat you up, and when it begins to, the enemy takes advantage of that to frustrate the marriage, and it keeps being there, and messing up everything that God has planned for marriages, because he's not happy. The devil is not happy that God created the unity of man and woman, because he knows that when we come together, we are very strong. We are two different individuals that brings our different powers together. And when we are coming together, we are coming with what we have to unite together to chase 10,000 instead of 1,000. 10,000 and 1,000, there's just a lot of spaces between it. So one shall chase 1,000, or two shall chase 10,000. Like, that's a big space from 1 to 10,000. You can imagine that. And that is what the enemy is fighting. And that's exactly his reason of fighting marriages today. So understand that Satan is not going to give up until he sees that your marriage goes down. And that is why you have to be determined with your spouse to make the marriage work, whatever he comes with. If he comes in with betrayal, you're ready to fight him. If it comes in with a lack of communication, you are ready to look into it and ensure that you get your marriage working. If it comes in with infidelity, if it comes in with whatever it is, you have to rise up and see that the enemy you have is not your spouse. Both of you are meant to be team and team up together to fight what is fighting you, because the enemy does not end at separating the both of you. He still comes after you one after the other, because what he does is to kill, to steal, and to destroy. Until he has destroyed, he is not ended yet. Knowing what to do at every point in time is important, depending on your issue, depending on your challenge, and knowing the unique way to face your own personal challenges. I always say how this person manages a relationship issue shouldn't be exactly how you should go about yours, except if you are in the same shoes with them, or maybe you sussed out for your solution and found out that this is what is going to work for you perfectly well. Another reason why marriages struggle is lack of emotional intimacy. Like, I made a video on emotional intimacy, like how to really be emotionally available for your partner, and that video will impact your life very well. You need to see it on my YouTube channel. It's so important. You need to see it. You need to see that video. I'm going to be dropping a link so that you find that video and watch it, because sometimes marriage is not just about sex, it's not just about money. Of course, the end product of the sex we have in marriage is to have emotional satisfaction. And our emotions are abstract, like you can't touch it. Like, but when you are done with sex, of course, what you look out for is the satisfaction you get when you are through with that. And when you are done spending the money on your partner or buying things for your partner or yourself, you look out to feel good about it. If you don't feel good about it at the end, then why is it happening? Like, it's no reason. Like, it doesn't make any sense to experience it if you don't feel good at the end of it. So we have sex because we want emotional satisfaction. But of course, sometimes we don't really need the sex to get emotional satisfaction. It could be that your partner is in need of something. It could just be to do something for them to make them feel satisfied. Just like women, sometimes we just want you to cuddle her, and she just wants you to be around her. Maybe tell her sweet words, and just be there with what she feels will satisfy her emotions. And of course, on men too, they may expect something else that will satisfy them emotionally, beyond sex, beyond money, beyond the food you are giving to them. So emotional satisfaction is one of the things that are neglected in marriages. But of course, that is what makes us feel like we are together, like someone's hand is wrapped all over you, even when the person is not wrapping their hands on you physically. And sometimes it could be physical touching, like maybe you're lying on the bed with your partner for so long and you feel like spending time with your partner without necessarily doing anything, like maybe watching films, having fun, talking, discussing, and that satisfies your emotions. So you don't have to neglect emotional satisfaction in your relationship, or emotional presence, emotional availability in your relationship. Most marriages that lack this, they struggle a lot. So finally, on why marriages struggle is external influences. Like, a lot of marriages are going through issues on external influences. It could be influences from siblings, it could be influences from in-laws, it could be influences also from friends. Like, of course, you cannot hide because you got married. You cannot run away from friends, family, in-laws, and you can't run away from these are people. Of course, we live to relate with people, but the boundaries is going to determine how their influence is going to impact your marriage, because a lot of people who love you would want to tell you how to make things work in your marriage. And that is when, if you're not careful, you can carry everything and run with. So ensure that every advice, everything, whether it's coming from friend, mother, family, in-laws, anybody, is that whatever they are telling you to do for your spouse or for yourself, or the way they want you to be living in your marriage, ensure that those informations are filtered before you apply it in your marriage. Because if you don't do that, it will be running your home to the drain, thinking that you are helping. Not because most of them don't want good for you. A good friend will advise you good. But of course, what worked for a good friend in their marriage may not work for you. So understand that your marriage is unique and advices are good, but ensure that these advice is going to work for you before you apply it. Some of them can work, but some may not work. So every individual is unique. You are unique, your partner is unique. So, and your friends, your families, your mother, your father's marriage, your mother's marriage, they are all unique. Yes, they are unique because your fingerprint is so different from theirs. So you have to understand that what worked for this person may not work for you, but in some cases it may work. So whichever one you want to apply, ensure that it goes through that filtering and be sure that this is going to work. And if you apply it and if it never works, be quick to throw it away and find what works for you. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, share this video to people, and don't forget to subscribe and share my videos to a lot of people to see it. Thank you. My name is Esther Christian.